So we'll go ahead and get started here. So we've got a panel of guests put together, some amazing brothers and sisters in Christ who are dedicated and devoted to working in this industry and helping other people. Thank you all so much for being here. So we've got Jeremy Graham down there with True Purpose Ministries. He is the program director, executive founder, CEO. We've got Liz Gooch with Serenity Ministries. She is also an alumni of the program, and she's currently working on her master's degree. We have Rachel Loveday. She is the clinical director at Centerpoint. Clinical services coordinator. And then we've got AC, and he is with Men of Valor. He is the program director. And then y'all know this guy, Dr. Cofield. He is a pastor, a psychologist, a mentor, a dear friend of mine. So we're just going to start out with one question. What's drawn you guys to working in this field? And if it's a personal story or whatever it is, we start wherever.
Is it on? Hello? How do I turn it on? Oh, it's on? Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear myself. So mine is a personal story. I came into Serenity Ministries around 2020, a complete atheist, did not believe in the Lord at all. Serenity Ministries is a faith-based program and very biblically based. Chapel in the morning, Bible studies, going to church. So I came in and I was like, okay, and I'll give it a week, right? Like this place. And then in my mind, I'm like, this is nuts. This is the Bible, the stories in the Bible. It was never taught to me growing up. And so it was all new to me. So I was asking questions. I was like, because I had a hardened heart. I had a, dark childhood, a lot of trauma in 2016, where I lost my mother due to a fentanyl overdose, and then I myself have had several overdoses experiences. So anyways, I came to Serenity completely broken and just with no hope, at all. Because number one, I was an atheist and I didn't believe in the Lord at all. But it took me, so I said, okay, I'll give it a week. It took me and each week I was asking questions, okay? And so I would ask questions, and the answers, I was like, okay, I'm seeing how the Lord could have been in, pieces of my story, where I couldn't see him at all. Like I just saw like darkness, brokenness, sin. I couldn't get off of the stuff I was on. My mom died. I lost my son. A lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma. How is there a God? Like what? And so, and I went in, and I will say, I thought I was being brainwashed because they had these classes, and one of the classes was called Switch on Your Brain. And I was like, I called my dad and I said, they are brainwashing me, literally. Like I have a class where they're trying to train my brain to think like theirs, right? I was like, get me out of here, please. And he said, no, thank God. Thank the Lord. He did not come and get me. But you know what he did say? He said, well, Liz, your brain needs to be washed. Right? I mean, it did. And it was, the renewal of my mind. I mean, I'm a new creation now. And I was not created, and I call it Lizzie BC, before Serenity. And so 1 week turned into a month. And then after a month, it just took me a month to become a hardcore atheist to a firm believer, baptized, going to church, praying. And at first I was praying, I was like, this is weird, Lord. Like, I don't even know you. But he knew me. And he was with me the whole time. And every single, he was with me in the hotel room that I watched my mom die in. He was there, and I was able to see how he kept me. And his love, his mercy, the people he put in my life, I was able to see from a child. From a child, my parents, my father went to federal prison. So Serenity Ministries, I mean, it's a long-term program. You can't smoke. I mean, they took away everything. They stripped me of everything I used to cope. Couldn't smoke cigarettes, Bible, all of that. So anyways, I don't want to take up too much time because I know. Yeah, so coming in a complete atheist, and then, do you know, so I said a week, then it turns into a month, and then the Lord shows me, like I just went into the chapel one day, I said, Lord, just show me something. Like I don't even know if I'm talking to someone. They're just telling me, go in there and talk, pray. And so I was just talking to him. I'm like, just show me something. And then this one lady came down and tapped me. And it was just one encounter that I needed to have with him. And I've never been the same since that one encounter. And it was a lady, a volunteer, who volunteered at Serenity. And she took me out of class, and she said, was I doing something wrong? She said, you don't know me, but I know you. And I said, that reminds me of Jesus. You don't know me, but I know you, and I've known you for a long time. And this lady said, we've been praying for you. Because she was, when my mom died in 2016, she was ministering to my younger sister, right? Because losing my mom, it affected the whole family. And they had been praying for me to get to this facility, and I was like 18 to 24 months, absolutely not, 30 days. And it's just evidence that, and I don't know how many rehabs I went to before, and it was all NA and AA and going to 30-day places and then going to halfway houses. And so when I called, they're like, Liz, you've said you're going to get clean before. What's going to be different this time? I said, I don't know, but I got to stop because I had a 2-year-old son at the time. I don't know what's going to be different, and now I do. And that's why. Thank you. It was because I was never introduced to Jesus and his love that he had for me. And it was so hard to receive. And I could go on and on because, I've never been the same. The desire of, I don't even smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I don't have the urge to use heroin or my drug of choice, which I never thought in a million years I would. I couldn't even get a minute a day, whatever. I could not go without that. It totally had control over my life, every part of me. So I went through the program, had the opportunity to go to school. Never in a million years would I have thought I would have graduated from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. May 17th? Like, what? I came in and I've always worked at Party Cities, and I said, I'm going to go be a part. Everywhere I went, I'd go work at a Party City, and I was the manager, Party City. And I said, that's what I'm going to do when I get the chance to work. I'm going to go back to Party City. Well, the Lord had a lot more in store for me. And then I graduated, and now I'm in the master's. I got accepted in the master's program. And I'm making good grades. The Lord is good. But he turned this hardcore atheist, really like hardcore. Like I asked a lot of questions, and my care coordinator and people can attest, but I'm going to let others speak because I could go on and on about this because I just love it. I love how the Lord has totally transformed me. Not just, he's transformed the way I think. My relationships in my life, I have a relationship with my son. Wow. And with my family. And yeah, my life has never been the same. And it's like, you know what? This is the last thing I'm going to say. Walking with the Lord and turning my life over to the Lord was the best decision I had ever made, because each year keeps getting better and better and better and better. I went in 29 years, and I'm 33 now, and I went and I told my dad, I said, look, Dad, I'm turning 30 in here, and my 30s are going to be way better than my 20s. He said, well, Liz, I don't think they could get much worse. But they've been so good, and the Lord is good. So, yeah, and Jesus and surrendering my life to him has made all the difference. And that's what was different about this time. And I've been able to, stay clean. And
such an incredible testimony of just tragedy and redemption. And I think God's heart for all of us is to redeem the most broken parts of our lives, the most broken parts of our stories. And I wish we had time to hear your whole story. But thank you for sharing that piece with us. It's beautiful.
I guess, so the question, right, was why do we get into this work, correct? Okay. I would have to say it was a calling, just like our sister. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol myself, and gave my heart to Jesus and was totally radically born again. I actually didn't go through a program. I was addicted to just about everything, but I didn't go through a program. I actually locked myself up into a house for about 2 years and read the Bible, and then, of course, started going to church and was being discipled. Discipleship is my absolute core to who I am. I was discipled according to the Word of God. I was discipled according to my identity and who I am now. I used to think that I was a mistake. I used to think that I wasn't even supposed to be on this earth. But, I found my true purpose. That's why I named it True Purpose. True purpose. We all have a true purpose in Jesus Christ. And so the reason I do it is a calling. God placed his calling upon me to have housing and to have a program so that everybody else can find their true purpose in Jesus Christ.
Hey, what finally motivated you to ask for help? Like, was there a certain moment in your addiction, or?
With me personally, I started understanding that God, gave me the gifting and ability to be able to help others, and that was eventually my call. And I just had such a passion. I guess that's the best thing I can say is it was a passion. It was a passion that I couldn't put out. It was a fire that I couldn't put out. I knew that I had to just get plugged in. So I started with Center of Hope down in Alabama. Some people have heard of that, but it's a really big program down there. When I started, there was only, I think, 25 or 30 guys down there, but I was a counselor there. And then, of course, we came up to Tennessee to start a program in Kodak, and so the rest is history. But it was just that passion. I knew that I really needed to help as many people as I possibly can find Jesus,
No, well, we really appreciate the work you're doing at True Purpose. It's incredible. AC.
My name is Anthony Charles. I'm affectionately known as AC. I, too, was called to this. I did not interview for it, but I know that God called me to this new life that I live today, and I'm very passionate about it because when I was introduced to Jesus Christ, I was behind bars, and it was just simply laying in my bunk one day, and there was a prayer group standing around my bunk, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? These and all these old stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? But one of the guys was bold enough to ask me to come stand in while they prayed, and the Lord just kind of moved on my heart. So I was introduced to Jesus Christ at the time, and I ended up doing 10 years on a revolving door system, going in and out of incarceration. But each time I went back, I would get a little bit more and a little bit more. And so in about 2006, I was at my wit's end, and I had found myself behind bars again. And I landed in a place called, a unit called Men of Valor. And they was a Christ-centered ministry or program. And I was looking for change. And they started discipling me and introducing me into who Jesus really truly was, and it intrigued me. And I started studying my word and really just diving in and understanding who Jesus was. So at that point, I received Jesus Christ as my Savior But to be honest with you, I had to bump my head a few more times, and it was about 3 years later that I surrendered to him as my Lord. And that made the difference. That made the biggest difference to me, understanding that Lord meant master, that I had to surrender my will over to his will. And it's a long story behind that. It's a great testimony. But, you know, he basically told me that he was doing his part and I wasn't doing mine, and I needed to get on board. So I finally surrendered and got on board, and I haven't looked back. I was released from incarceration in 2010, and it's been so many God moments. It's been so much maturity in my life that I'm just excited to be doing what I'm doing. And my purpose in life is to make disciples and to fulfill the Great Commission. I know that's what I was created for. There's no question in my mind. And that's what I actually do right now, you know. And Paul says it this way: the things that happened to me in my past has actually turned out for the furtherance of the gospel. And the reason I walk in that today is because I am in a position where God has made all those things that I did bad to work out for his good and for the good of others, where I get to sit with men who are on the same path that I was once on, and now I get to talk with them and minister to them and serve them and give them hope and courage. And the neat thing about it is I can speak their language. I speak their language. I've sat in the seats that they've sat in. I've probably eaten out of the same dumpsters that they've eaten out of. So I can relate to everything that they're going through. So our God is great. Jesus is awesome. And I'm just excited to be living a life that's hopefully pleasing to him.
Thank you.
I'm Rachel. Hey, everybody. So my journey started a little bit later in life. I was a late bloomer. So I was a professional working at Lakeshore, if y'all have ever heard of that. It was our state mental institute. And I had dental surgery, which led me to an opiate addiction. But I always had a sense of, I like to say my original drug of choice was approval and acceptance, and I never could find it anywhere else. I tried and I tried, but what opiates did for me was made me not care as much and made me had a false sense of hope and connection, kind of like you were talking about earlier with wanting that connection or just feeling a sense of purpose. And when I was using, I didn't worry about it as much. So I, like you, AC, took a few turns in the jail. And so I grew up going to church, but I never really felt a connection. I felt more a punitive sense. So I kind of tuned it all out, if that makes sense. But when I went to jail, I wanted to get out of my cell. And so they invited me to church. And I was like, oh, awesome. I can get out. And they're singing in there. Like, I always like singing. And that's when I started to know him, to love him, and to know that he was there the whole time, right? But I, like you, had to go back out a few more times, in and out of jail. And the last time, I didn't know what I needed exactly, but I knew I didn't want to go back to jail, so I finally agreed to treatment. I finally got a connection with my higher power, which is God, Jesus, and started going to church, going to meetings, building that connection, and then I decided to come back into social work. So it's really crazy to think 9 years ago I was in a jail cell, like detoxing on the floor, and what God has done for me and brought to my life today is just amazing.
Thank you, Rachel. I think earlier in our presentation we talked about Irvin Yalom, and one of the things that he said is the most effective helpers are wounded healers, and that's a theme that I hear here. And it's not just a wounded healer, but it's someone that's been willing to struggle in their sorrow, and it's a recognition of how depraved we really are without Christ, and I hear that in each of your stories, and that's why you guys are so good at doing what you do. Jim. Nobody knows you yet.
The reason I am in this field is that they said earlier that ultimately addiction is a worship disorder, and it is. All of us are addicts because it's idolatry. It's a relationship with something that blocks the pain of living in a fallen world. And so I as a psychologist, I found that answers of to just look at yourself for the sake of self seemed but not only unhelpful, but actually selfish. But when you look at your story as a part of God's grand story of redemption, it's an incredibly exciting thing to be a part of. And so I consider, and some of you, everybody has a different story. Some of your stories will be incredibly dramatic, and some of your stories will be like a sunflower slowly turning toward the sun. God deals with each person individually, and we're not. But God does do what He says, and God does finish what He starts, and so there's incredible hope in that, and that's an exciting thing to do with your life. Watch people choose love in the midst of pain, to choose Christ in the midst of sorrow and struggle that's what takes place on the cross, and that's what takes place when Christ is in someone. So.
Thank you, Jim. And this question is really for anybody, but what are some of the biggest struggles that you face working in this field personally?
I think for me is seeing the potential in people when they don't see it yet themselves. And so I want people to get it the first time around, and I want them to grow and prosper and do all the things that I know they're capable of. And so sometimes I just feel sad that doesn't always happen on the first time, but I do take some joy in knowing that we are planting seeds of hope, and just letting them know that they're worthy and they have value, and when they're ready, we're here for them. I think that's one of my struggles.
That's a great response.
I spoke at a CR last week, and it was the overdose awareness, and I said, if we had a guy in this county that had the cure for cancer, anybody that had cancer in this area would be going to try to find him to get cured from a death sentence of cancer. And I said, we have the cure of drug and alcohol addiction. And that's one of the hardest things, just like our sister said, is that you have the cure, but there's just not a whole lot of, there's some people that just choose not to take it. And that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing, to see the people not want it and not take it when you have the cure sitting right there before. And of course the overdoses. Out of all the people that we help, of course, we still do see those statistics of people dying every day, and that's hard. That's hard to do the funerals. It's hard to spend time with them and love on them and laugh with them, and then the next day they're gone.
Yeah,
that's tough.
It's a really hard thing to watch someone refuse to believe that a better life is actually available to them. And Rachel, to what you said, it's like you see things in your clients that they can't see in themselves, and you pray and hope that they'll borrow just a little bit of it and they don't take it. And it hurts.
But also I can relate to that too, because, when I first got into recovery, I wasn't sure if I could do it. I didn't believe in it, but I think, I know that God sent my DA, probation officer, the judge, and said, hey, we need to sit Rachel down for a minute because she's not listening to me. So I just hope that, eventually they're going to get it, but I know that I can relate because I've been there before. It took so long. It took many times before I finally said, oh, maybe I can do something different, Yeah,
thank you.
I think for me, knowing that with Christ all things are possible, and wanting it for the men that I walk with more than themselves, and investing in their lives, and know that they have the capacity, if they just surrender, to live that new life, to see them turn away. And I think about in John chapter 6 when Jesus had his disciples there, and he asked, he said, of my body you should eat and my blood you should drink. And they said, this saying is too hard for me. And, and so many of them turned and walked away from Jesus. Only a few of them stayed. And I kind of see that every day in my life. Like, you have everything that you need right in front of you. There's a buffet. You can eat as much as you want, but you just turn away from it and just go back, you know. And I understand, you know, that we all turn away at times, but just wanting it so badly for them, and them not realizing that the gift that's available to them. So.
It's like that C.S. Lewis quote, Dr. Cofield, from earlier. We settle for making mud pies in the slums and can't imagine, because we can't imagine a holiday at sea. Is that right? Yeah, that's exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, I would have to agree, definitely, is just working with, because I'm a care coordinator now at Serenity, and just going through the program and knowing what it has to offer, and watching and investing in the ladies and then there, and then really, like you said, like I have it's challenging because I do sometimes want it more than they do, and I invest so much of myself and my time for them to just go back and walk away, and that is definitely one of, because I know what the program has to offer. I know what Jesus and the Lord can do, and just watching them turn away and walk away from that, I think is, definitely really hard to see.
So we only have a couple minutes left. Real quick, if somebody here wanted to give back or serve in your ministries, what would that look like? How could they do that?
Well, for Men of Valor, you just bring your gifts to the storehouse. We'll find a way to use your gifts. All you got to do is show up. Yeah, we spell love at Men of Valor, Time. That's a commodity that none of us can get back. And you know, a lot of the men that we minister to never had a positive male figure or role model in their life. And so when they see a man who's out there that has a family, that's living a life that they desire to live, come in and volunteer an hour of their time a week, that speaks love, that shows Jesus, and they just gravitate to that and embrace that. So if you just show up, you know, for a Bible study, sit in. We do a Monday morning Bible study at 7:45. We call it Put a Word on It. And we have more volunteers there than we do students. It's just a life-giving moment, and the Holy Spirit just really operates at its highest capacity in that Bible study. And just the volunteers and men showing up outside of men that minister to them every day really speaks volumes.
Thank you, AC.
Hello? Okay. For McNabb Center, we have so many programs. I don't even know them all. We have so many programs and employees, but if you are interested in volunteering, you can see me after. I can get you in contact with somebody. But in general, I would just say, just love on our people, you know? Love on your people that are in your churches, that are in your communities, that are in your gas stations, the people that everybody else ignores. Make eye contact. Give them a smile. I think those are really important things, because I know when I was actively using, I felt like I wasn't seen. I felt like I wasn't worthy of your attention, your hello, you know, as you walked past me. So doing simple things like that, making that connection, I think is really important.
That's good. Just asking someone what their name is, right? Like, what's your name? Can I pray with you? Means the world.
This one still doesn't work, I don't think. So for Serenity Ministries, it is a program under CARM, and so to come and volunteers make a huge difference. I mean, I still speak to the volunteers, and they become mentors, and they become just trusted people, consistent people that we see on a weekly basis. Just the consistency of knowing that the volunteers come and love on us, care for us. It's not something I was used to, you know? And so, and then after you graduate, they still are like checking in on you. I just had a volunteer text me, and I was like, wow, you know, they really do care for us. But anyways, to answer your question, so you go through the CARM main campus. You would have there's a process. You have to. Is it through a website? Some of the people from CARM are here. A website? Okay, I'm not familiar. But you can come speak to me, like Rachel said afterwards. Volunteers make a huge difference. Some of them are the ones who facilitate groups and come and teach the ladies a new way of life. Come teach about Jesus. That's how I learned. So anyways, volunteers, make a huge difference at CARM and Serenity. And you can just come see me afterwards, and I'll let you know.
Great, thank you.
I would say first pray. We need prayer warriors interceding for us. I mean, man, that is you can imagine we are on the front lines. All of us, we're on the front lines. We definitely need prayer warriors for prayers for our staff, prayer for provision for the ministry, but also spread the word. We do have beds open right now for females. We also have a pregnant women's home. We opened up another facility in Madisonville, so we do have some beds, but men are full. But I would say, of course, pray for more housing as well for men, because we stay pretty much full. But just again, prayer is huge, and of course, giving. If you'd like to give, it's on the website, truepurposeministries.com.
I'll jump in on that too. At Renew Clinic, there's also a lot of opportunities for volunteers. And as they said, volunteers are incredibly important and vital to what we do at Renew. So if you're interested, get with Jennifer and she will explain it to you. So I think that is our time, and the main event starts in about an hour. I think there's food trucks out that way, and there's a playground if you want to go do the monkey bars. Thank you, guys.